Afternoon everybody, and welcome to our sunset safari, our slightly delayed sunset safari. Just want to apologize to everyone. We had a slight technical glitch, and that's why we've come out a little bit later. Now Taylor and I have been out for a little bit longer, so we have still been looking around. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I have VM. Now, this is an interactive safari, so we would love to hear from all of you. Remember, you can get hold of us on Twitter using the hashtag SafariLive. And like I was saying, Taylor and myself, and even Steph is also out. I forgot about Steph. Steph is on walk. We have been out looking around, trying to see if we can find things prior to the show starting. And so far, it's been a little quiet. We've been looking around for Karula, VM and I, and we haven't found any tracks for her yet. We're in the area where Herbie last night heard some impalas alarm calling, but as you can see, it is very, very dense here and very, very thick, so not an easy place to find a leopard, particularly if they're in the shade and they've found some sort of food item somewhere here. Then it's going to be very tough to be able to find them. But hopefully she's left a track somewhere on the road, or maybe it's Shongile or Hosanna. That would be quite nice too. So we're just slowly checking, making sure there's but hopefully she's left a track somewhere on the road, or maybe it's Shongile or Hosanna. That would be quite nice too. So we're just slowly checking, making sure there's no signs of them around.
I've spotted the Koki Franklin. I'm just trying to figure out how to show David. I can't see it through this grass. I can see it with the naked eye. No. David, let me put... I don't even think my laser is going to work. No, it's too bright. He is... You see this little green shrub that we've got here, right next to us? So if you go 2 meters that way... Okay, stop there. Where is he? Where is the Koki Franklin? I promise you it is so hard to try and point it out with a camera in this long grass. Oh, he's moving now. Can you see the movement? No? He's just there. Can you see it running? Just running behind the tree now. There you go. Can you see his head in the sun? He is a phantom Franklin. He's just gone around the corner in the sunlight, David. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. It's so difficult. Now, this just shows you it's not always easy, and it's not always as glamorous as what it looks out here. It's sometimes really difficult. Let me go forward, and I think we might be able to look back again. Where are you? It's so funny. This just shows you how well the animals blend into the vegetation. Now, I can't even see it. It's completely invisible. Oh my goodness, I think we're going to have to give up with this. We have been outsmarted by a bird this afternoon. Did you think you see him? Mr. Go forward?
Go forward a little bit.
No. We have failed miserably, David. I can't believe we let a bird outsmart us this afternoon. I think we're going to actually just have to drive away from this one. We'll have to try again. Let's save ourselves the embarrassment then. Oh my goodness. So right, we'll have to try and redeem ourselves this afternoon. Hopefully we'll find another Koki Franklin that is visible. I promise you it was there though. But there's still one more person that you will need to meet. So let's go across to Steph, the master of the bushwalk.
Hopefully Taylor will be able to redeem herself this afternoon a little bit later on her quest for whatever she's looking for this afternoon. I am Stefan Tibura, and on camera today is Craig. I need to have some water, I'm already dehydrated. Herbie's literally marched us across Djuma over the last couple of minutes, and because of the these slight problems we were having with the signal, we could really turn on the speed. He is hell-bent on finding Karula, and he thinks that she's in this thicket in front of us right here. So this thicket extends probably for a couple of 100 acres before we get to the next road. We've circled the roads this morning, we've circled the pans this morning, and we think, or at least Herbie at least thinks, and Tristan and Taylor all think that Karula's inside here, probably sitting on a kill of some sort. So how are we going to find her? Well, we're going to find where she's been drinking. That's about the only way that at this point we'll be able to find her. Coming in or going to a pool of water will be a series of footprints that she'll be using from the kill and back. She's also got two youngsters with her, two 13-month-old cubs, or almost 14-month-old cubs at the moment. And they're also going to be leaving footprints all over the place. So hopefully, with some luck, hold some fingers crossed, today we can find one or two of those places where they've been drinking, and from there hopefully find where she's been hiding for the last couple of days. Alright, we're going to go through a particularly thick patch of bush here, which is going to create havoc trying to bend down and go through it all while we are getting to the other side and hopefully picking up some clues. Why don't you go and have a look at the elephant that Tristan's got?
Indeed, Steph, so we've come to Cheetah. We had these Ellies right at the start of drive, and they were in very thick bush, so Viam and I thought we'd come quickly and check to see if our elephants have come out. And look at that, isn't that pretty? The female and her calf have come out towards Cheetah, and they're having a beautiful drink in the late afternoon heat. You can see lots of spraying going on, so the poor baby just got a wash from Mom. Thank you, Mom. But the reason she's doing that is she's spraying behind her ears to just try and cool that body down quicker. When it's very warm like this, it's about 30 or 88 degrees Fahrenheit this afternoon, so it is warm. And these elephants, being big, large animals, unfortunately, they end up getting quite hot. So what she does is she'll throw bits of water, particularly the surface water that's still got that dust layer on the surface tension. They throw that often onto their ears and onto their backs just to cool them down, and then once they've broken that surface tension, you can see with her trunk every now and then she just moves it a little bit, and they drink that cleaner water that lies underneath. Now you can see she's a lady that can do two things at once. When you are busy drinking and it all gets too much, then you can lean up against the tree and have a nice little ear scratch as well. Isn't that amazing? She's a very big girl as well. She's got very nice tusks, this female. Long and symmetrical and straight. Very, very pretty. But you can see, look how she just moves all the dust off the top of the water, and then she grabs that nice clean water below, and she'll push in, and whatever's left in her trunk is generally what's full of sediment. So as they turn their trunk and it becomes that sort of loop that we see, there's sediment that will fall into that bottom part, and then they just drop it all out and they get rid of that. And that's all just so that they don't have to drink sand and varying bits of debris that are actually in the water. Now, she is not these are not the only two in this herd. The actual herd is quite big. They were spread out quite a bit when we first found them early this afternoon, so I would imagine the rest of them will start to come slowly but surely. But look at the little one. See how it's been sprayed by Mom? That little one didn't do any of that itself. That was all Mom's work. And this little one is quite a character, because when we first found them, it was being very, very cheeky. It was coming up to us and shaking its head and full of nonsense. But it seems now that it's going to follow Mom away from the water, and we timed that absolutely perfectly, because it looks like they're going to go back into the thickets and into some well-deserved shade. Lauren, you want to know when the calves start to drink water? Well, almost immediately, Lauren. Even when they are very, very small babies, they don't really have much coordination with their trunk, but what you'll find with the little ones is that they'll actually go into the water. So they'll wade into the water, so their mouth is close to water, or they'll kneel down and put their head down to the water and drink it like that if they can't use their trunk yet. But almost as they're born is when they start the drinking of water. So when I worked with orphaned elephants in Kenya, they were already on, well, they were on milk to start with, but they did get supplemented with water every now and then, even from 2-3 weeks old. So they get water quite early on, and that's just to stay hydrated. The milk is more a sort of nutrient-rich formula that helps to sustain them and help the growth of this large animal, whereas the water just keeps hydrated as well as to cool them down. You can see how that little baby's been sprayed, so it's now going to be nice and cool in this afternoon heat. Right, so our elephants have disappeared, and it seems like the rest of the herd has actually shifted behind where they were drinking and has carried along down the drainage line. So I think we're going to leave them there. We're not going to be able to find our way inside that thicket. So let's carry on and see if we can still find any sign of Karula. And while we do that, let's go across to Miss McCurdy and see where she is and what she's doing.
We've decided to come all the way down Cheetah cut line to just have a little squiz around here. And I don't know if anybody has mentioned to you yet, but it sounds like quarantine is on a kill just next door to us in Torchwood, which is actually quite exciting. So these tracks, remember we had these male leopard tracks coming up Cheetah cut line this morning? I'm now wondering if they were Tinganas or if they weren't perhaps quarantines, which is actually quite interesting. If it is his, because he's pushing very, very far into, well, an area that he was born in, but he shouldn't be coming this far, because if he bumps into Tingana, there's definitely going to be a box between the two. And, well, Quarantine's not a small male leopard, he's quite a big boy, but he's not as experienced as a Tingana. So we'll have to just wait and see and try and figure out who exactly walked up this road. But they went quite far up north, so just check now. You can still see some faint tracks from earlier on. David, I have an idea. Should we check that old warthog burrow?
That's a good idea.
Remember where Gwen was first seen? I think we'll go around. We're not too far now. We'll go and have a look at that warthog burrow and see if there's anything happening in there. I don't know when it was last checked. I certainly haven't had a look into it for ages. A couple of weeks now. And then after this, we'll go via Twin Dams, maybe Treehouse Dam, just have a quick look around there to check the watering holes. And then we'll go towards that hyena den. And so hopefully we'll get there around 5:30 or so, just as it's cooling down nicely. And then after that, this is what I'm hoping is going to happen. We'll be able to go towards the Chitwa Dam. That'll be really, really quite nice if we can do that. Because I'd love to spend some more time with those young hippos. They put on such a fantastic show for us. Hang on, there's a cuckoo. Frickin' cuckoo that landed somewhere in there. But you know what they're like? They aren't exactly the friendliest when it comes to cameras, and they don't like to sit around for too long. There it is. David, go at top middle of your screen. There we go. Look through there. Oh, go up a bit. There we go. On the right-hand side, you can just see it moving around. If you look very, very carefully, here you go. You can just see its head popping out. An African cuckoo. How cool is this? Now, something that I've been looking out for is actually to see an African cuckoo being fed by, well, the host species that it particularly uses in this area, which is a fork-tailed drongo. But sadly, I haven't seen anything like that yet, and I really have been keeping an eye out on them. And this was the bird that we tried to get the other morning, and it was posing so beautifully for us, but typical, as we go live, it flew away, which is a pity, but this sighting is definitely making up for the one that we lost. Now, it's just flown down into the, no, now it's gone, it flew away. It looked like it was going to swoop down into the grass and perhaps pick up something, because they love to eat caterpillars. They love those juicy worms, which they prefer to eat. But like I said, we need to try and see as many cuckoos as we can, because it's going to be a couple of months before we do. They should start to leave now between March and the end of April. So we've got another month or so to go. Oh, here's our turn off. And another thing I forgot to tell you is yesterday morning after drive, no, when I went for a run, I saw a black cuckoo, which was unusual because we haven't heard them calling. They're not calling about at the moment. And I don't think I've actually ever seen a black cuckoo this year. Just heard them calling all the time, so it was quite nice to have a quick glimpse of one of those. So that was really lovely. Let's see if we can do a couple of cuckoos today before they go. The only one I haven't I seen this year? So the black cuckoo I haven't put on camera. Oh, hello babies. Look who's in the road in front of us. Little crested Franklin chicks. Hi Hi guys. Well, one little crested francolin chick. I think there were two. There doesn't seem to be very many of them. But quite nervous of us, of course. And Mom and Dad will most likely usher them into the long grass where they'll feel a lot safer. Hi guys. There was also a drongo on the ground too, and a couple of magpie shrikes. Oh, here comes another one. Oh, you can't see it. It's just popping out of frame. There it is, standing right in front of the car. This one is not scared. This is a brave crested francolin. What? Yes? Looks like it's not very happy with us. What are you going to do about it, though? You can't do very much at all. And off it goes. Not so brave anymore, is it? Now, something that's amazing about these birds is, and if you are a new birder and you're wondering a little bit sort of about what's the difference between a francolin and a spurfowl. My goodness, there's another one. There's a whole group. Oh, well, there's another little chickie. Come on, guys. Come on out. Oh, that's so funny. They're starting to actually relax with us. That's really nice. And if we can get a good shot, you'll notice with the crested francolins, oh my goodness, there's chicks everywhere. There's right in front of the car. This is beautiful. Look how many there are of them. And I keep getting distracted. So if you look at a crested francolin or any of the francolins, you'll notice that they've only got one pair of spurs on their hind legs. You can actually see them sticking out. The males have them very prominently, whereas the females don't tend to have the big spurs. That looks like probably a female. The male, let's see if we can get one of them. You can see them quite nicely. And then the spur fowls have a double set of spurs. So if you're unsure what a spur is, if you know on a rooster, on a chicken, if you have a look at their hind legs, you'll see that they've got those massive sharp things sticking off the back of them. So those are the spurs that I'm referring to. Oh my goodness, and a dwarf mongoose is joining them. This is bizarre. Did you see that little mongoose? It's in the middle of the grass. I'm going to try and go forward. Let's see if I can get another view. So there's crested francolin, magpie shrikes, drongos, juvenile drongos definitely, and a dwarf mongoose. No, I don't know where the birds have gone. Let's see. Let's go around the corner. I think our dwarf mongoose has now run away. Louise. See if I can't even. I don't know if I'm still live. Am I still live? Oh, there you are. It's very quiet in Final Control today. Just checking with all the gremlins that are going around. Oh, cool. Hang on, let me show you something here. Right, I'm going to remember this plant. Have a look over here while I try and stay attached to my earpiece in case Louise feeds me any questions. It's nice and long. So you can see this plant that's growing over here. It's not particularly big, but there's a couple of them. This is called milkweed. This is proper milkweed that we get here in South Africa, and it's got a milky latex, so this is typically what the African monarch caterpillars are feeding on. They will munch on these leaves. Now I need to try and remember that it's growing here, because once these little seed pods, they get bigger and they burst open, there's a type of it looks like cotton wool inside of them, and it is super flammable. And what the European settlers actually used to do, and like I said, we'll come back here when this cotton wool is actually showing, and I'll show you exactly how flammable it is. But you can actually use it as a tinder to start a fire. It lights and it ignites very quickly. But a wonderful plant nonetheless. Let me see if I can show you the milky latex. I don't see too much milkweed. Here we go. If we look just on the tip there, you can see all that milky latex coming through now. And there's not very many plants out here that have a milky latex. It's the milkweed, the num-nums. The num-nums, however, though, are not toxic, like the milkweed, and then also the euphorbias have got quite a strong latex to it too. You don't want to get that. This stuff is not so bad. You can sort of put on your fingers, on your skin. You're not going to burn from it. However, the euphorbias, which look strange, they look like cactuses, but you get thousands of different species of euphorbias all over the world, and particularly in South America. And the one out here, the Euphorbia cooperi, or the deadly euphorbia, is one of the most toxic plants that we have here in South Africa. If you get that milky latex from the euphorbia on your skin, it will cause severe blistering. If you get it in your eyes, you'll be lucky to make it out with temporary blindness. And they also use it as a fish toxin as well to kill fish. Right, but very cool. Right, amazing. Let's get back in. It's very, oh no. It's very, as I say, it's very wet and almost sunk. Whee! Okay, so what we're going to do is we're not too far now from that warthog burrow, so we're going to make our way there and hopefully have a quick look around. It's actually quite interesting here, but I'm going to send you back across on foot with Steph and see if he's having any luck with finding Karula.
We are standing in some of the thickest bush that I have yet to stand in Djuma in this summer, and yes, exactly, we are looking for Karula. Our noses led us to this particular area, and there underneath that bank, which was undercut by the storm the other day, is a dead tortoise. So we've been smelling a carcass for the last 10 or 15 minutes or so, and we thought that we had found the kill, Karula's kill, and we got quite excited when we came into this area. We've been taking it very carefully so as we don't disturb anything or don't get charged by anything protecting a kill. You presume that it's Karula, but of course it can be any leopard or any lion for that matter of fact. But what actually a little bit of blood out here in Africa to see this. We're in a proper, pristine wilderness. This has never had any human habitation or intervention. We're very far from any road. Absolutely pristine. Here we've got Herbie in the distance over there. Just making sure that our perimeter is kept nice and safe while we speak to you. And yeah, it's just a nice, peaceful place to be. Barring, of course, it was bad for that tortoise there. That wasn't so nice for them. But I don't think that I've ever been to this particular bend in the river, to be quite honest with you. I don't really remember being here. Now, Melinda, you're a new viewer, so I just want to say welcome to the Safari Live experience, and I hope that you spend the next few years, next few decades growing with us. And you've just asked me, how do I get used to working with all these dangerous animals or walking around with all these dangerous animals? Melinda, it's safe to assume that you just got to stay scared all the time. So I know that doesn't make much sense, but you just got to stay aware the whole time. You can't fear anything out here, of course, but you've got to constantly question yourself. Am I being careful? Am I being mindful of the wind? Am I being too bold going through this particular place? How safe are we? Is it okay? Where are we going? You've got to constantly sort of ask yourself these questions. And that way you don't take any unnecessary risks. Out here, there was a hole that Craig stepped in, so if you jerked on your screen there a little bit, that was just Craig disappearing into a hole that a tree, a fallen down tree had created. It could quite easily have fallen down a warthog burrow, and would have been quite funny. But just to finish that, Melinda, so yeah, we take calculated risks out here, but there are calculated risks. It is risky. We are taking a chance out here, but we try and do it as safely as we can. And of course, I've been doing this for the last 20 years odd. And so I know a trick or two to keep myself out of the trouble. It's not to say that you can rely on that whatsoever. I'll help you there, don't worry. Craig's stuck on a bush now. It's this thick bush that we've got here. It's holes and twigs and branches everywhere at the moment. This is what was catching Craig. A tambuti branch was holding him quite tightly. You can see. We've got a whole bunch of exposed wires on the back of the backpack, and so he was busy. Careful not to pull it all out. Alright, so yes, I hope that answered your question, Emily. Keep watching. We've got lots more to show you, as I'm sure the rest of the community will tell you. Alright, why don't we carry on looking for Karula, and in the meantime, why don't we go off to Taylor?
I think, you know what, I think I'm going to leave the search of Karula up to Steph. He's going to do a much better job than I can, especially because she's been MIA for the last few days. So I really think that we're going to miss tracks if there are any. They're going to be so subtle on the ground. And I think Steph and Herbie are going to have a much better chance. So if they do hear any squirrels alarming and things like that, Tristan and both of us are in the area. So we'll be able to help out that way. But we're just turning on to Weaver's Nest. Let's go have a look around here. Then we'll go towards Treehouse and then to Shibamu, those beautiful pans. And then hopefully the hyena den with some hyena cubs. That would be nice. Though I think it's a little bit warm to still head there. So I'm just really going slowly. Let's see. Tristan is, I think, looking for me now. Standing by. Now we wait for the response. Tristan can't copy me. Standing by, Tristan. I don't think Tristan can hear me. That's fine. We'll just, I think Louise, please tell Tristan he's obviously not copying me on Game Drive comms. If you can just let him know, and I shall get hold of him in a moment. I'm not sure why he can't hear me. Oh, nope. Right, let's just carry on. Oh my goodness. It's a wacky Saturday afternoon out here. Right, where are the animals, David? I'm very upset that we have not seen any animals yet. Let's keep on searching. Now we've still obviously got quite a while to go before we get to Treehouse Dam. It's actually quite far. You know, you think when you're driving around on these properties that it's just, the places are just around the corner, but you've really got to travel quite a distance to get anywhere. Okay, so we're a little bit closer now. Let's go onto this road. And there are again lots of elephant footprints. Come on, elephants. And they're over our tracks from this morning, which is good. But maybe we get lucky up ahead. Oh, and you won't believe it. Those elephants that you had with Tristan this afternoon drinking at Chelepan. David and I were there for ages and there was just absolutely nothing. So they must have been hiding off in the bushes. Right, Tristan has got something very interesting to show you. Let's go across to him.
We do. It's not Boris the Blade, but it's a close relative. It's a water monitor that is coming out of Twin Dams and is busy walking now, trying to find a way to the dam wall. Now the dam wall's been packed to stop erosion, so I think it's quite difficult for a huge lizard to negotiate where it's actually going. But isn't that massive? You can see that is a very big lizard. I would say that in terms of meters, it's probably about a meter and a half, Avian. What do you think? About that. And very, very, very big indeed. Now it's going to disappear as soon as it goes into the grass. The grass is so long these days that it's really quite tough to actually see these things. And I'm sure it's going to go and look into these pans that we have around here. Just on the bottom side of the dam wall, there's lots of water there and it's full of big prey items. It doesn't look like
Well, you come back to us. Sorry about that. We just lost the signal there with Tristan. You know, coming to you out of the middle of one of the Earth's largest wilderness areas has its moments every now and again. But I'm glad that you did, because look what we've got here. We've got a kite spider. Just be careful where you're standing. That is a kite spider. Gastroblaster is the genus. I just love that name. Gastroblaster. And it just refers to the very swollen abdomen of this particular spider. Nothing really remarkable except for the body shape of this spider. It is an orb web, and it has caught a butterfly, and that is the wind that is blowing through the bush over here. Must be amazing to be a spider. You're sitting on the middle of your net, the wind is blowing you to and fro. It must be quite an awesome ride. Would you imagine that they take some pleasure from it? Pretty interesting, eh? Now this butterfly did some damage to the spider's web. You can see here and here, there are holes in the web. I can stick my finger through it. So as this butterfly was struggling, it was netting the web together until the web broke, and now it's held. It probably was envenomated by the spider. Now it's being held there. The spider will, oh, there we go. Oh, you just missed. You just missed a fly there, girl. I know it's a girl. Oh, look, it is absolutely incredible for me to actually figure out how quick these spiders react to flies or insects in their web. I mean, they obviously must react quick, otherwise things will get away. But that was literally faster than I could register that a fly had gone into the web. She had felt the fly hit the web. She had felt the hit of the spider through her feet. Her brain had said to her, there's an insect there. She had raced down the web and just missed it. See what she's doing here. She looks like she's spinning around. So unlike the garden orb spiders and the golden orb spiders that we see, these spiders do look like, what is she doing? She's busy biting her web into pieces. Let's see, what is she doing? Maybe what she's doing is she's going to repair. No, it's a bit of a strengthening one. There she's holding it all together. You can see how she brings it all together. Going out. Oh, she's collecting a... How did she remember? Did you see that? She had a little parachute. So rather than climb back up her web, she lets go the web, she swings to underneath the center point, and then she draws herself up again. Almost like, I suppose, an abseiler would. But that means that she's specifically made her web at an angle rather than vertical, because then she wouldn't be able to do that. So she specifically made her web at an angle so that she can climb down her web, get whatever she needs to get, then drop underneath and go up again. So climb down the web, get the fly that she harvested there. How she remembered that she had a fly left over in the web there, I don't know. Obviously a lot more aware of what they've got in their web than we give them credit for. We all think that spiders are not that clever, but let me tell you, to be able to construct a web like this, to be able to maintain it, to be able to keep an awareness of what you've got in it and on it, to be able to react the way that they do, definitely takes a utilization of the few brain cells that they have at a level that's probably far higher than even we have, which is amazing to say. I mean, obviously that's just an observation from me and nothing real serious. See where she goes. She's now holding on to this web again. Gusts of wind that are coming through this thicket. Let's see where she goes now. See if she does the same thing. Only one strand holding that butterfly. We've been seeing some amazing things this year with spiders. We had a green orb spider the other day collect a whole bunch of insects and then basically snip them free, or group them all together, then snip them free, and then walk herself to a leaf. She had caught enough breakfast, and she decided that she was too exposed in her web, and she went to go stay underneath a leaf for the day. So she had caught her catch for the day, and that was what she wanted to do. Or actually, no, it wasn't a catch for a day. She had caught something big. That's it. I think she had caught a big fly, a massive fly, and she thought that that was enough for her for the day. Unlike this spider, who's caught this massive butterfly, but hasn't given up catching food for the day. Now, remarkably, this afternoon has been free of flies, relatively. Now, Alex, you've asked how long the spider web will last. Alex, it'll last as long as the spider maintains it. So, in my experience out here, spider webs are in constant need of being fixed. You know, bits and pieces of dust and flying branches and leaves and birds and animals come through here and ruin the web. And so as long as the spider's in attendance, the web will last indefinitely, really. It's the second the spider leaves that I see these webs deteriorate very, very quickly. And it literally just is going to require the spider to have a constant maintenance regime on this particular web. So she'll constantly be checking, restringing her radials, making them stickier, coming to see her tension line. This is her tension line, making her line down to her anchor, which is at this piece of grass at the moment. So this whole web is anchored on this piece of grass. So how she would have built this web is quite interesting. So she would have climbed up this tree, for instance. Then she would have let out a piece of silk from her bottom. The wind would have trailed that piece of silk until it stuck on this branch right here. There. She would have tied it down. So she would have walked across it, tied it down. Then she would have come to the middle of the web. She would then let go a piece of silk, and it would stuck to this grass. And that would give her a 3-point support for her web, like a triangle. Then she would have come in and built these ones. This radius arm here, and another radius arm here. And that would have given her a smaller triangle inside the triangle of her supports. And then she would have built her I don't know what you call these lines that go to the middle, but the lines that go from the outside to the inside. And then she would have filled up the gaps with the sticky silk on the inside. Lots of videos on YouTube of spiders spinning their webs, and all in faster motion than what we have at the moment. It's truly amazing. Maggie, you wanted to know how could I tell that the spiders are female? Maggie, generally spiders that sit in webs are females. Males are nomadic for the most part, when they're adults at least anyway. And male spiders need to be nomadic because they got to be the ones that come and find the ladies. The ladies are bigger usually in webs because they don't want to expend a lot of energy. They need to gather a lot of energy so that they can lay eggs for the new spiders. So they need a bigger body to do that, to generate the eggs in their body and to make the babies that they need to make. And then she lays the eggs, and then winter usually arrives and she goes away and perishes. Most spiders. There's a lot of spiders that don't perish, of course. I mean, the baboon spiders are long-lived. They live anywhere up to 25 years. Ooh, there was another fly, almost landed there. So you see what she's doing? She's not tugging on the web. No. She's doing that for two reasons. She wants to create more vibrations, but she's also testing the web to see if there's any weight on that particular strand. And there was nothing, so she goes back to her vigil, holding on to all the strands in the middle of the web. Oh, it is quite interesting. Oh no. Catherine, you want to know what's on her back. Catherine, to be honest, that is the kite of the kite spider. That is her body. That is what she is born with. That is what gives them the genus, the kites, or the gastroblaster, the swollen backed spiders with those spikes on it. That is her body. Weird and wonderful. The books that I've read on these kite spiders have all said no one really knows what that is for. I don't know. Nothing that I'm seeing here right now makes me believe that it's anything except perhaps a bit of a deterrent for birds wanting to eat this particular spider. She looks like a thorn, and so birds won't want to pick at her because they'll get the thorns and the spines stuck in the throat. That's just an observation for me. So there's a bit of a deterrent to being eaten. She doesn't look like a spider, she looks like a spiky thorn, and so birds might not want to eat her. Really lovely. We're in this beautiful thicket of trees here. I just want to show you before we link over to Tristan. Have a look through there at that absolutely enormous knobthorn and the tamboti tree behind it. That is just two old giants of this particular thicket in this particular forest. It's nice to spend some time with them. So I'm going to go over and give this tree a bit of, well, I'm going to go introduce myself, and while I do that, you're going to go and see what Tristan's been up to for the last couple of minutes.
So we left Twin Dams because of our little signal problem, and we decided we're going to continue on towards Arathusa. It's getting to that time in the day now where we're going to slowly try and start making our way towards where I left the Nkuhumas this morning and see if we can get any sign of them and whether or not they're actually going to be up and moving, because they were fairly sort of getting up and going quite a bit. like they were quite hungry, even though they did feed last night. So I think that we're going to try and see if we can go and find them just in time for that sunset period, and see if maybe they're going to wake up and start moving around. It might be that it's a little bit warm and that they might only start walking a little bit later, but it's worth a gamble and worth a try to see what's going on. Now, I was thinking about this morning coming back into this area and trying to see if I can find any signs of Shadow again. Remember, we had that very brief glimpse of her this morning, but alas, I got some information from everybody else that just after we left her, the other guys from Simamili found her, and they found her busy throttling a small antelope. So I'm not sure which antelope it was, but she managed to make a kill just after we lost her on their side. So there's no chance she'll be back on this side, unfortunately, but it's good news for her. It's always good when Shadow gets a meal, and maybe she'll even bring out those little cubs, or cub. It's yet to be determined how many she's got, but it would be nice to know for sure. And I reckon if she's got food now, it should be almost the time that she's starting to take those cubs towards food. They would be now approaching, I would say, about 10 to 12 weeks, somewhere there. So I would imagine that they're at that age now where they're going to start being introduced to meat for the first time. If they're not, she is going to go back and forth from that carcass to go and suckle those cubs, especially if she puts the carcass up into a tree. So I would imagine that her cubs, or cub, will be able to find out fairly shortly whether there's only the one or if there's still indeed two left. I really hope there is the two. It would be so nice if Shadow did have her two cubs still healthy. She always has such bad luck, and I always feel bad for her, but she just seems to get herself into the wrong places at the wrong time. But nevertheless, it's the way it goes. It's unfortunately just shows you how hard it can be, and how sometimes there's just a bit of misfortune when it comes to raising children. And you think that her mom, who holds the territory adjacent to her, so her territory lies just slightly east, yet she's had so much success. So it just shows you that it really isn't always that easy, and that sometimes it's a battle to raise little ones. Out here. Now, also the nice thing about this time of the day is it started to cool down a little bit. That sun's starting to get lower in the sky, and it really, the temperature has dropped significantly from when we first started. So I would hope that around the airstrip, which is where we're heading to now, that we should see some animals starting to come out. There is the beautiful pan on the midway down the airstrip called Buff Pan, and that pan is always a really great place for all kinds of animals to congregate in the late afternoons. They often come for a little drink, so it would be quite nice to see if there's anything around there before we head on to the lines. Right, so while we go and check along and see what we can find, let's go across to Taylor, who seems to have fulfilled her mission for the afternoon in finding the largest animal out here.
We have indeed. We actually were just about to turn into the hyena den when we glanced across the valley towards Rebecca's Road. We spotted a giant herd of elephants. So they're all over. There's quite a few of them that are this side going down into the valley and up towards Quarantine, which may be nice for a sunset a little bit later. But there's a very angry elephant cow. That one in there. Should we show you the one that just was not very happy with us? That's her. She's very grumpy. As soon as we drove into the sighting, she didn't even think. She came straight at us, her head towards the sky, and not very happy. Now, and you can see she's slightly stressed. She's oozing liquid from her temporal glands. Whether she's excited or angry, I'm not sure, but just with the behavior that she showed us, possibly she's a bit unhappy about something. Now, but this is also, again, it's just my opinion. When an elephant cow comes at you and just shows you that you're unhappy, I typically give them room almost straight away. Here comes a young bull, and I don't play games with them just because they're in charge of the whole herd. And I think if one elephant's got very bad vibes, you don't want to upset her, because the rest of the herd is going to pick up on her vibes and might become a little bit agitated too. Whereas an elephant bull, you've got to be stern with. You have to stand up to them and sort of say, hey, you know, I'm not listening to your nonsense, you can back down. But with cows, give them room straight away and go, okay, sorry, my apologies, madam. And then, they seem to settle down after that again. What are you digging for? You're just using his foot there to cut the grass, and that's what most of them are eating at the moment, always munching on the lovely, nutritious and delicious grass that's out and about. Should we try go forward, David? Let's go a little bit forward, because there's also a couple of young ones coming out onto the road now too, so we'll have a look at them. And it's a big herd. There must be about 20 or 30 elephants here. Hi, boy. You're going to come and eat right here. Hello? Don't. Don't start. You just keep walking. Thank you very much. Now, bulls like this, he's quite young. You can see he's still mixing with the breeding herd. He's walking right behind the car. Are very curious. Very, very curious. And it's not uncommon for a big bull like this to come right up, walk past you, sniff and interact with the car. But he's fine. I just warned him straight away, because as he came towards us, he curled his trunk up slightly. And I just sort of, you heard me, do that to him, and then he goes, okay, cool, I'll just keep on moving. And it really sounds silly that we talk to the animals, but I can promise you right now, and any guide will say it, is that with elephants, you can very, very easily diffuse a situation. Now, I always try and be cautious around elephants, because they are really the only ones that can hurt you in the cars, and you've got to respect them. But with a young Ellie bull, like I said, just raise your voice a little bit. Didn't need to bang the car or anything like that. And then typically they'll just move past. It's probably one of the most uncomfortable feelings, I think, to have a big elephant bull standing right next to you, sniffing, sort of quite intrigued with you. It's an adrenaline rush, but it's also quite a scary feeling as well, because an animal's behavior can just change like that. It's not often. Normally they will show you signs if they do start to get upset. But there's the rest of the herd. Actually, hang on, let's keep going, David. I think we might catch them again popping out down here. Hi, guys. Let's just make sure this is not our angry... Yes, it is. Hey, girl. Hello, big girl. It's okay. I don't want to get too close to her. You can see she's just through those bushes, feeding on the other side. Hi, girlie. Let's just see. We'll just sit here. She's feasting on a buffalo thorn at the moment. Let me see what she does if I start my car. Are you going to let me go past? May I go past, lovely lady? Let's just sneak past. It's okay, girl. We'll leave her alone. We won't bother her. There she is. She's just feeding at the moment. It's okay. You can see they're secreting quite a lot from the glands. Hi, little one. Here's a very young elephant, just a couple of years old, quite curious with us. Standing directly behind the sun. That's actually quite beautiful. A backlit elephant for a sunny Saturday afternoon. Hello, little one. And they're all actually quite relaxed. Now I've lost comms. I'm so sorry, Louise, if you've been trying to talk to me. I don't know when my earpiece pulled out. But I'm back now. I'm plugged back in again. Louise says she's been singing to me. Now, Fee, you're wondering why are elephants always wet behind their eyes? So what you noticed, not all elephants have it. They all have these temporal glands, and we'll try and find another elephant that's secreting for you so we can explain it properly. We're not going to go back to that cow, though, that's not very happy with the cars. We'll leave her, but there are a couple of others moving around here, so we'll just keep going with the Ellies. Now, so most animals have got different glands. So they've got glands between the ears and their eyes, and that's called the temporal gland. And typically when you see that secretion, that oil dribbling down the side of their face, it's an overstimulation of adrenaline. So it can mean a number of different things. You've sort of just got to look at the surroundings and also the animal's behavior. But it can mean that they're stressed, whether it's got to do with a lack of food, lack of water, maybe she's about to give birth, her hormones are all changing, or she's very excited, so it means different things. And it's actually quite a common misconception. People think that if animals have that secretion, it's a bull, and that means that they're in must. But this is not the case at all, because young elephants can get it, old elephants can get it, male and female elephants can get it too. And here's this youngster that we've been seeing. There's actually quite... Oh no, here is the other one. Oh, Right, we have to reset the stream, so don't panic. We'll be back shortly, but we are going to go to a tech loop now. So grab yourself a cup of coffee or a nice cold cool drink, and we'll see you in a moment. They were letting off very, very soft rumbles, which is the main way that elephants will communicate. It's one of the infrasounds that we can hear. The rest of them are too low, but it's amazing when you hear that coming from the stomach, especially when they're quite close to you. You can actually almost feel the vibrations. Not quite as much as when a lion roars, not vibrations like that, but you can definitely feel something. Hello, look at those tails are constantly going, swatting the flies. That one doesn't look like it has very much hair to the end of its tail. And it varies from elephant to elephant as it does humans. Some elephants are hairier than others. And I think if I was an elephant, I'd want a very long, hairy tail. Wouldn't you, David? Ah, let's see what's happening here. So we've got a young bull pushing about another youngster. And here comes a big cow. This isn't the cow that we were looking at. No, this is the bull. Sorry, this is the bull that snuck behind our car. You can see he's got a big slit in his ear. And now these look like the terrorists. Those three. Well, particularly these two bossing that younger elephant. Isn't that a lovely shot? Hello, boy. Are you coming past again to say hello? Is she having a mud bath? You see that one just at the back? I wonder what she's doing. She's covering herself in it now. Now, Matthew, you're wondering if the bulls live alone. They eventually will. Once they reach the age, it depends. That's lovely in that light. Hopefully there's some more go and play around there. So for instance, this bull that we're seeing now. Oh, sorry. You were asking, do they leave on their own or does the matriarch force them out? The matriarch and the rest of the other females will actually turn on elephant bulls anywhere between the age of about 15 to 20 years old. Like I said, it varies slightly from elephant to elephant. You can see, look how bossy he is. And if he carries on with that behavior, he's definitely going to be told to vamos. So it won't be too long before he goes off or out on his own. And I've seen it before. I actually watched it, an entire process of a young elephant bull being kicked out of the herd. He couldn't have been more than he was quite young. He must have been about 13, 14 years old. He wasn't particularly big, but he caused havoc. Every time he was in that herd, he was pushing the youngsters around and fighting with them, but so rough that the females almost were worrying for the lives of their calves, and they would chase him out. And it was a process that happened over a couple of months, where he hung around at the back of the herd, and every time he sort of came into the middle of the herd or even tried to join them as they were having a drink of water, that all the cows would come together and form a wall, ears open, trumpeting, heads pointed towards the sky, and they would actually charge at him and force him away and chase him for a couple of 100 meters. And then he'd stop and he'd wait, and then he'd slowly start creeping back up to the herd. And that becomes a problem when you don't have any really big bulls in the area to keep those youngsters under control. It's actually really good to have quite a few big bulls so that they sort the ones out, because a young bull that hasn't got somebody, a mentor, somebody to teach them what they can and what they can't do in the big world, can cause huge problems. Now this bull is being very cheeky. You behave or you're going to find yourself in a bit of trouble, mister. And you'll see that the cow won't really stand for his nonsense. She'll tolerate it for a little bit. She doesn't look like the matriarch. She looks quite young, quite small still. But still big enough to boss him and tell him to get on his way. Sorry, I have a fly that's biting me that needs swatting. Oh, look here, these two are now going to have a little play. Now, that's unfair. You can clearly see that one is bigger than the other. You can't come and play on my car, though, unfortunately, boys. Sorry, I'm swatting flies. And this one I'm going to kill. Dead. Right. Isn't this just absolutely beautiful here with that nice golden light? But before these two little boys decide to join me in my car, Tristan has finally managed to find the first cats of the day.
So, as you guys can see, we found a very, very sleepy Nkuhuma Pride. They've all tucked up in the shade and very similar to where we left them. They're exactly the same way, and they haven't moved very far at all. They are very, very fast asleep. They are, which I hopefully was what I was hoping they would not be. I was hoping that they were going to start waking up at this stage. They seem to be very fast asleep. They didn't even pop their heads up when we arrived, so still in a deep form of sleep at this stage. We might have to be a little bit patient for them to start waking up. But you can see that they are battling a little bit with the flies, so even though we're going towards winter at the moment and the temperatures are starting to cool, the insect activity is still very high and lots of biting flies around and lots of ticks still. So that's why the ears are moving so efficiently all the time and twitching. It's just to get rid of those flies as they land around the ears, and particularly around the face and nose area. But you can see how social they are. And a lot of you are commenting how cute the little cubs are. Indeed, they are very cute, but they're starting to lose that cub look, aren't they? They're starting to look a little bit more like adult lions. They're getting those features, and everything's starting to grow into the size of their ears, and their paws is all starting to get less and less and more proportioned in terms of their body. So they're starting to look a little bit more sub-adult and far less cubby as we're going along. And it's amazing to see how big they are. VM was asking me if I think that these cubs are actually the same size as Hosanna, and I think maybe they are. They actually might be definitely Shongile size. They might be a little bit bigger than Hosanna, though. They're getting to that stage, and soon they will be, that's for sure. You can see the spots are fading as well, so they really are getting quite big now. So many of you are complimenting VM on his lovely camera work. He is good, isn't he? VM is one of the best. It's always a pleasure to be working with VM. He really does do a very, very good job and moves the camera around with such grace and ease. So well done, Vildi. Very good job. But that is a picture of pure content behavior. They are absolutely loving the shade, and I don't think they're going to go anywhere anytime soon. I think we're in for a long afternoon of sitting and just watching and waiting and letting them do their business before we're able to actually see that they're going to stand up and move around. And I actually think with the heat that we've had today that they're only going to get going probably late this evening. But let's see. It's worth being patient for and seeing what's going on. We're also in an area where there's lots of traffic of other animals. So we're along a drainage line that leads up towards Arathusa Dam. On the other side of us, north of us, is a little pan called Sief's Pan, where zebras often like to go and drink. And so maybe one of those animals comes walking through here, and that will pique the lion's interest, and we'll see a little bit more movement from them, and they'll actually start to get up and move around like they were this morning. But it is quite difficult actually to make out one from another at the moment. They're all stacked up together. Kristen, you're wondering about the mane on the cubs or whether or not it's gone. If you have a look at that one cub at the back there, you can see on its elbow there's still a little bit of sort of scabbing that's remained. So while it is not very bad at all, there is still a little bit there, and it's slowly but surely diminishing. So I would imagine within the next little bit, probably a few months, 3-4 months, we'll see that they'll be completely healed. They've really come back from it and bounced back, and they're looking in far better condition than they were even 2 months ago. So I think they'll be just fine. And the older they get, the stronger their immune system's going to be, and the more that they're going to be able to get rid of this mite. Also, as they get older, they start to lose that cub sort of mentality of always having to be right up next to one another, and you'll find then the mite is not going to spread nearly as easily like it does with the adults. The adults, you can see, when they lie apart, they actually are in far better condition, so they don't spend nearly as much time in close proximity to one another. And so when that starts to happen, then the mane should clear up, but it is infinitely better than what it was a few months ago, that's for sure. Oh, and a big stretch there. that kind of afternoon. It's a siesta afternoon. I think it was much like that in the Djuma today. And everybody was kind of having siesta this afternoon, so it feels like that kind of day, and the lions are doing it very, very well. Auntie Lynn, you're wondering if all 6 are here of the cubs? They are. So this morning we had all 6 here. It's just that we can only see 4 at the moment because they're lying off a little bit to the right as well. We've got some in a thick bush just off to the right, which are the other 2 adult females. So where the sun is shining there, just behind that bush, is where the other 2 are. You can actually just see the back end of one sticking out there. It's quite difficult to see, but there is one in there, and then another one around the back of that bush. So all 6 are here and accounted for, which is good news, and all are looking healthy and fit. There's no limping individuals, there's no issues with any of them. They're all looking quite good, so all is well. The youngest cub that we have, which was looking a bit skinny earlier in the week and looked quite thin, is even looking a little bit better. Maybe it got the lion's share, so to speak, of the impala that they killed, and you can see it's the one on the back right there. So you can see that its hips are still a little bit protruding, so it could put on a bit of weight. But I'm sure what's happening with that cub is, as we've gone into summer and they're no longer feeding as heavily on things like buffalo, and they're having to rely on impalas, and probably not nearly as often as they were in the winter months, there's a little bit less nutrients, and then the body is fighting this mange that they've got, and so it's utilizing a lot to try and get rid of that, and that's why it's probably a little bit skinny, but they'll be fine. You know, we now almost at the end of the summer months, and so there should be a bit of rain coming our way, which would mean that in all likelihood, I mean not rain, sorry, a bit of dryness coming our way, which would mean that the buffalo are going to get a bit weaker, and therefore it will be much better for the lions. Right, so we're going to sit this out and wait and see how they do and whether they wake up or not. And while we do that, let's go to a rather more active being in the form of Steph on his bushwalk.
Have a look at this erosion ditch from the rains. Just isn't it incredible that the amount of rain that we had? It wasn't even significant. 60 millimeters is definitely far less than what we can get. We can get over 100 millimeters on a rainstorm, but look what it did. I can't wait for it to rain again. I'm going to come straight back here and have a swim underneath this waterfall. I think it's going to be quite nice, don't you? Nice to see these things, eh? Right, now Craig's got to try and jump up over there, so he's probably just going to lose me for a second while he balances. Craig, you just felt what it felt like to be a klipspringer, which is an antelope that occurs over here that is well renowned for being able to jump up almost vertical cliffs. But that's not why we came here. We came here because there's a tree that I like to visit. Today's definitely been a day for big trees, mainly because we can't find Karula. I haven't given up just yet, but we are walking around in circles where we think that she is. Hopefully we get to find something. The biggest clue that we had, of course, was that smell of that dead tortoise. We thought that we had nailed it, and then we got there and that bank that had fallen on that poor tortoise had killed it. But wow, have a look here. And I've got something to show you. Awesome! Look at this hole. Can you notice the axe marks on the hole? So what that is where man has chopped open and maintained a beehive. Now I've only ever found another one here at Djuma, also in a tamboti tree, not too far away from here in actual fact, so it was probably the same honey collector. So what's happened is that hole there has a cavity in it. The cavity would be a brilliant place for bees to come and make a nest, but it needs to be maintained. It needs to be widened so that the honey collector can smoke the bees out and collect the honey. And you can see the tool marks on that tree there. That is definitely tool marks. Oh man, that's epic to see. And because there's no damage to the tree, I can see nothing else. It must have been made ages ago. Now, man has been living here for ages. While that could have been the marks of a stone tool, I doubt it. I think that looks like an axe, a steel axe. And to chop a tree like this with a stone tool is virtually impossible. This tamboti wood is very, very, very hard and would have posed a bit of a problem for Stone Age man. Not that you couldn't do it, but I think it's an Iron Age site maintained by one of the local honey collectors. And I don't think it was now. The Sabi Sands is one of the oldest reserves in the country, at way over 60 years old. There hasn't been people living inside the confines of the reserve for way over 60 years. And before that, people were living over here, but it was seasonal, because in summertime, lots of grass, of course, but disease, malaria has been rife over here. And in wintertime, of course, there's not enough surface water. So people would move in good years, move out in bad years. It would be a very sort of marginal area for people to live in. But obviously, there's been a honey collector. And how sad is it that nobody here remembers who that honey collector was? Now, Peter, you've asked me what the oldest living tree is in this area. I'm going to say it's probably this very tree, or one very close to it. There's a leadwood that grows on Leadwood Drive. That's the biggest leadwood, I think just 2 or 3 shows ago now. Yesterday or the day before, we showed a leadwood, an absolutely enormous leadwood. That's probably the oldest tree here at Djuma. It's also the biggest leadwood that I know that's growing. But this tamboti, and there's another one further down here that's about the same size. They're the biggest tambotis on the property. And this tamboti and that leadwood are probably about the same age. I would say anywhere around 600 years old. Perhaps a little bit older, perhaps a little bit younger. The only way you'd really know is to carbon date it. And that means to drill a hole in here and then to date the carbon-14. Apparently, if I get my theory right, there's a compound that changes into another compound, and take me on my word for this, and basically leaves behind some element, and they measure that rate of decay of these compounds, and that gives a very accurate age. And they'd be able to basically tell you how old this tree is. Now, Tristan, who's also being fed what we're saying at the moment, says that there's a leadwood in the Mulwati that he feels is the oldest leadwood. Tristan, probably, I mean, I'm going to agree with everybody over here. I think that I don't know every tree that's growing at Djuma. I know a fair amount of these big trees. I could probably take you to a selection of the oldest trees. But to answer the question, the previous question is, which is the oldest tree? It would be a leadwood in this area or a tamboti. Definitely one of these two. This one, another one, or that leadwood. But what is absolutely fascinating is that beehive that we've managed to find over here. Wow, these flies. Let me see if I can get up here and have a look inside without getting mumbled in the face or falling off and breaking something. It's absolutely been chopped inside there. Leslie, you've wanted to know, do we have any non-stinging bees? Leslie, we absolutely have non-stinging bees. By far and wide, the majority of bees that we actually have out here are non-stinging bees. And if you want to see a picture of one, I think James used to play with some non-stinging bees inside the giraffe skull. And I think there's probably our community would be able to send you a few links to James's bees that he was showing also underneath our microscope in the tent. And you'd be able to see one of the species of stingless bees that we have over here. We do have stinging bees as well. That is what makes these honeys, or this honey, and would have, it's so interesting, you know, the axe marks just go in this deep, and then there's a cavity, and it would have been very difficult. I think you'd probably have to have scooped out the honey with a tool of some sort, probably a stick. I don't think this honey collector got much honey from here, to be honest. There's not a big deep cavity. Would have had to chop in a little bit more. Just so cool to see. Oh, I think I'm going to come and climb this tree at a later stage without my backpack on. I feel like I want to, I could climb right to the top of this particular tree and stick my head out the top, but I don't think I'm going to do that now. I'm going to take my backpack off first. Also, I'm a bit dehydrated from my walk today. I want my brain in full function before I go and climb to the top of a tree. I am almost 40 years old, of course, and My wife would be shouting at me right now. Awesome. Now, we're still looking for Karula. We've expected that when she gets moving in the cool of the evening that we'd start to hear, we'd at least start to hear animals give alarm calls like they did last night, which is why we think she's somewhere over here. Last night when we said goodnight, we were looking at a giraffe, and behind us there was a group of impalas that were going absolutely crazy. Now, we found where those impalas were a little bit earlier on in this walk. We tracked the area through and found and backtracked the impala, but couldn't even find one single footprint of this particular cat. She's being very elusive at the moment, which is typical of Karula. Anyway, while I try and throw myself off this tree without breaking anything, we're going to send you over to Tristan with those lions.
Well, as I predicted, Steph is far more active than our lions. Our lions have really not moved very much at all. One little cub got up and plonked itself down in about 2 steps. So it's about the sum total of the activity that we've had so far. The sun is now just starting to dip below the horizon. So I'm hoping as that goes down that we're going to end up with a very, very beautiful sunset, 1, and 2, with some lions that are going to start waking up. It is quite nice that the sun is going down. It's also gotten a lot cooler, so I'm hoping that these lions are going to be a little bit more active shortly. We're also going to have some other vehicles joining us. Some of the commercial vehicles are going to come and have a look at the lions, and they are coming in. So I think maybe when they come in, 1 or 2 of the cubs might put up their heads, and we'll get at least a nice view on them as they do so. But isn't that the picture of absolute happiness and comfort? That is one sleepy little cub, that's for sure. You can see those noses are still very, very pink, but the blackening is starting from the bottom and along the edges. Slowly but surely they're starting to get darker and darker. And so there was a long time where I used to use the nose as a way of aging lions or leopards. They say that cats' noses change color, and that is mostly true, but I have seen multiple different cats whose noses stay pink even as they go into adults. There's a female leopard in this area called Moya, and her nose was pink until she was about 6-7 years old, so it's not really a true indication of age, but it is at least one of the signs that they could be aging as that nose starts to darken up a little bit. And you can see, there we go. So as VM just said, Shadow, who is quite old already, she's got a very pink nose as well. So Shadow is about 9 years old now, VM, just about there. Her nose is very, very pink. But look at that cub. You can see that cub's nose is much darker than the other one that we were looking at just now. And this is the one of them that has got the very deep amber eyes as well. So there's 2 of them in this pride. There's the young cub, then there's that one, and then of course there's the original amber eyes, which is the adult female who is missing today. She's not with them. It's just the 3 females that are here today. Now I wonder where she is. This morning we found tracks for the Birmingham boys, 3 of them. They were eventually found on Simambili Elephant Plain side, and it looked like in amongst those tracks was a track for a female. So maybe that's where Amber Eyes was last night, is with those boys, and she was walking around, and then when they pushed a little bit too far west, maybe she turned and went back this way, and so she's maybe hanging around somewhere here. I haven't heard of anybody calling any tracks for them, so I'm sure they are around though. But that is the picture of absolute happiness. And the 2 in the back are starting to have a little game together. They were pushing one another with their paws, but it seems like everybody's comfortable again, and back to sleep we go. Now you can see that during the day today, while it's been warm, they actually haven't moved very far, and on their chins, which VM was showing you there, there's no sign of any matting, which means that they haven't drank today. So I would imagine that when they do decide to wake up, their first port of call is going to be to find water, just to rehydrate themselves after a long day of being warm and hot and probably panting a little bit, which would have led to quite a bit of moisture loss. So I reckon that that's where they're going to go first, is maybe to this pan that I was talking about just north of us, drink there, and then from there continue on the evening's hunting exploits. But this is about as far southwest as I've ever seen the Nkuhuma Pride. I've never seen them really push too much further than this. I've seen them a little bit further northwest of this, but never this far southwest. We're now right into the Salala's area, that Salala Breakaway Pride area. Used to see the Salalas this winter. This was all the area that they used to hang out. So we used to see the Salalas here quite extensively, and they used to be very, very commonly seen here. Now they've shifted south a little bit, and it seems the pressure from the Torchwood Pride has led to the Nkuhumas actually pushing into this area now and making use of this Arathusa Dam, Arathusa Lodge, and then the south and around the airstrip area. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out if the Salalas do come back and they find these Nkuhumas here. Hopefully, with luck, this Nkuhumas won't be here, because those young males in the Salalas are now big enough and strong enough to potentially kill these cubs. So it would be a bit of a disaster if they did run into each other. Better that the Nkuhumas stick around further to the northeast of where we are. But there you can see a bit of that mange we were talking about earlier, particularly around the hind legs. There's a little tail that's sticking out, still got lots of